I'm Wild. This is Rory.
Number 2?
Yeah.
Regular and Supreme?
Are you almost done? So, take 3. As I was saying before I was rudely interrupted by someone's love affair with her tacos. My name is Wild. That's not an adjective. It's just my name. This is Rory.
Hi, I'm Rory.
We have a very long commute to work every day in Chicago traffic, and we listen to a lot of podcasts, about true crime. So, we thought that we would just talk to you guys and pass the time while we're driving, going over cases that don't get as much coverage in all of the other true crime channels that are out there. So,
Spreading awareness.
Spreading awareness, always a good thing to do. We're awkward if you can't tell. To start, we're going to talk about the death of Jane Marie Prichard, which as of September of this coming year of 2021 will have been unsolved for 35 years since it happened in 1986.
That's crazy. 35 years.
35 years.
Come on, get on it already.
I know. Well, we're getting to that. They did actually get on it as of a few years ago. And when I was looking it up, this was actually referred to as Delaware's most prominent, or no, not prominent, but most notorious is the word they used. Their most notorious cold case, which at first I thought was weird because I've never heard of this before, but then I got to thinking, how much do you really hear about Delaware in general?
The first thing you will know about Delaware is
an unsolved
murder.
mystery. So, I guess let's get into it. So, Jane Marie Prichard, who is the victim in this case, unfortunately, she was born in 1958. She had 2 older brothers, Keith and Greg, who we'll talk about a little bit more later, and then also a younger sister named Beth. And they grew up on this giant farm in Maryland. Well, actually, I'm saying giant. I don't actually know if it was giant. It was 40 acres. Is that big? Is that considered big?
I mean, my yard is like a half acre.
Not to scale. This is not to
Not
scale.
to scale, no.
Yeah, I feel like that's like a pretty decent size. Anyway, so she grew up on this farm. It was in the country, and so she grew up as somebody who just really loved nature from a very young age. She liked horses. She loved going horseback riding. She was said to have a green thumb like her mom. She loved gardening, and she was described by her brothers as just being really adventurous. Like, she always wanted to be out exploring. She traveled the country on her own after she graduated high school. She drove all over just wanting to learn more about nature. She wasn't just passionate about science, she was also super smart. She was valedictorian in high school, and her parents said that she would actually sit them down at the dining room table and give presentations about plants when she was younger. That was just what she loved doing. So she loved the study of plants so much that she got a undergraduate degree in biology, but then she went on to get a master's degree in botany. So specifically the study of plants. She wanted to be an environmental lawyer eventually. So high goals for this one. She was very smart and very motivated. And she studied at the University of Maryland's College Park campus for this master's degree, which is near DC. And she had her own little cottage there, and she landscaped her own garden at this cottage. It's adorable. And she did all of this while she was also working at a botanical garden and working on her senior thesis in botany. So her whole life essentially revolved around nature and learning more about it. And for her thesis, she was studying at this forest called Blackbird State Forest. She'd been going there for years, so she knew the area to do research. And this was actually in Delaware and not in Maryland, where she actually lived. So I'm guessing that was because of the plant that she was studying was there.
Yeah.
I didn't do much research into this plant. It's called the hog peanut. I don't really know why it was special or why she chose it, but that's what her whole thesis was centered on, was this plant that was supposedly in this state forest.
Supposedly.
Yeah, it was only an hour and a half from
Would she
her.
ever find it?
She did find it. She studied it a lot. On September 19th in 1986, which is the year she died, she left her little cottage near DC, and she was driving her blue and white Chevrolet Blazer. She didn't drive the whole way at once. She slept at a friend's house overnight and then left really, really early the next morning. And she got to the forest around 7 a.m. on the 20th of September, which would end up being her day of death, unfortunately. She parked her car on the side of one of like the, like the access roads that leads to like a state park before it turns into just forest. Yeah. And she went in to start doing what she needed to do for her thesis. I don't know exactly what it involves. I don't know anything about plants, unlike she did. But from what I read, it involves something about watching the way that, like, the leaves were reacting as the sun was rising, I guess, that she was documenting. And she wasn't that far into the forest. She only went in about, like, 100 paces, like 100 footsteps.
So was she there before the sun?
So she was there, like, before the sun was fully up, yeah. Which,
creepy. Like,
she got there at 7 a.m., which, I don't know, when does the sun normally rise in September? After 7 a.m., I guess. But it must have been beforehand, because that's what she was there for, specifically. And this was supposed to be, like, her last data collection session for finishing her thesis. Like, this is the last time she had to go there, which just makes this even sadder and more unfortunate, in my opinion. The last time, yeah. Like, I don't know. That was really sad to me. That was supposed to be the last time she had to go there, and she never actually made it out. So, like I said, she was documenting something about how these leaves were changing as the sun was rising, and since it was something so specific for this really big paper, she was documenting it literally, like, minute by minute. Like, every minute she would update her, like, journal that she had on what was happening. But then right before 10 a.m., when she'd been there for almost 3 hours, they just stopped. Like, they found the journal after, and that was when it cut off. And so she had been killed in that time period. Her body was found later the same day. She was never reported missing or anything because it was found so quickly after by a couple who was actually camping in the forest. Which, like, imagine just going on a camping trip and just finding a body.
Like, I would be scared to report it, because, like, what if someone thought...
Yeah, I actually hear about that a lot, that, like, the people who... It's very common for, like, the person who did it to be the first one that calls and reports it. So I feel like I would definitely call somebody. Mm-hmm. I would absolutely call. I would never just leave someone out there.
Like, that's the moral thing to do, but also, like...
I can see why people would be hesitant to do it, but if you find a body... Please call it in. Especially, you never know, like, if it had happened recently, the difference that, like, getting it in quick could make.
Yeah.
Anyway, she was positioned pretty much where she had been before. She was only, I think it said 20 feet away from, like, where her, like, little setup was of where she was doing her research, so she wasn't, like, moved or chased or anything like that. She was just a little ways off the trail, like, close, like, not hidden. They could see her from just walking along the trail where they were. And she had been shot twice, once in the, like, the back of her shoulder and once on, like, the back left side of her neck, and had just died from bleeding out. So it sounds like to me that she was shot from behind. I mean, obviously you can't, like, that's where the bullet had entered, was behind her. And also, the part that I find weird is she was only partially clothed when they found her body. So, like, it didn't say, like, what exactly was wearing or what had been removed or how undressed she was. It just said that she was partially clothed. So some amount of her clothing had been removed and was taken and not found. Like, it wasn't near her. It wasn't. So I don't know. I don't know if, to me, that sounds like it might have been, like, sexual assault.
Yeah, like, why would you just remove clothes?
Like, I don't know why you would just do that for no reason other than that. Also, they never came out saying that there was evidence of that. But the police were also very protective of evidence in general in this case, so we'll get to that.
Or here's another possibility. What if the person who shot her removed her clothing due to DNA evidence being on it? Like, maybe she wasn't sexually assaulted. Maybe they tried to grab her or move her and they got interrupted, or they got scared of getting caught.
Anyway, there were a lot of hunters in the woods that day. They estimated that there were anywhere from 25 to 50 hunters just, like, in that immediate area where she was found where she was doing her research. And I guess that was because it was, I guess, the start of squirrel hunting season. And so there were a lot of hunters, but because of the fact that her clothes were missing, they determined that it was not an accidental, like it wasn't an accidental shooting, and that it had been a purposeful, like, homicide. Which makes sense to me. I don't know why, if you accidentally shot someone, your instinct would be to remove
some of their clothes.
Remove some of their clothes. Also, I mean, I guess we talked about this already. I feel like I would hope that if you accidentally shot someone that you would call, like, for help and not just let them bleed out, and also not shoot them again.
Yeah.
You know, that you would...
Was help reported to have been called at all?
No, nothing was reported until the couple actually found her. There were no reports of gunshots or anything, which makes sense if it was like a forest where people were. Yeah. They probably just thought that it was somebody hunting the squirrels or whatever. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. Yeah, so they determined that it wasn't accidental, that it was a homicide. And she had died on a Saturday. Like, her body was found Saturday evening, was the 20th. And then on the 22nd, which was the Monday after she was killed, so only a couple days, this guy came in with what he said was a tip. He was a squirrel hunter himself, and he said that he had seen another hunter where Jane Marie was the morning that she died. So he said that he had just seen this other guy hanging around, which I don't know.
There was only a time span of, like, what, 3 hours?
Yeah, there wasn't, well, she was found around 5 p.m. and she was shot, like, right before 10 is what her journal indicated. So, like, there was, like, a few hours in there.
So if someone was like hanging around there, then there was time before, like, they killed her. So if someone saw him, they wouldn't have saw him actually
do it. Yeah. So also I guess I don't know if I find it weird. I've gone back and forth on this. I don't know if I find it weird that he waited 2 days to report it, because part of me thinks that you would hear about it, but also, like, this was 1986, so, like, the news wasn't exactly
and also you don't
what
know
it is now.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. When I first read it, I thought that was maybe a little suspicious, but now looking back, I don't know that.
And also, you don't know what you would do, like, in that exact situation. Like, what if you were having, like, an inner, like, debate about whether or not you should report it?
Yeah. So, looking back, I don't actually think that it's weird. And it's not like he waited, like, weeks or months. It was just a couple days. Mm-hmm. So anyway, he remembered enough when they interviewed him for a sketch to be drawn of the guy that he said he saw, of a white male. We'll put the sketch on screen for you guys so you can see what he said he looked like. And so that basically launched the investigation. The police interviewed literal hundreds of suspects of men in the area, many of them hunters who were known to frequent that forest. They also tried to trace the ammo, like, from the shotgun that was found in her body, but they couldn't source it.
They didn't find any ammo?
No, they did find it. They found, like, they tested, like, the pellets that were, like, found in her body still, but I guess they couldn't figure out, like, where it had, like, what it had come from, which I don't really know what, like, ballistics testing was like back then. I don't know how advanced it was, so I don't know if that's odd or not, really, or if that means that maybe, like, the weapon that was used was pretty not standard. I'm not sure. But for what it's worth, they couldn't figure out where it had come from. And they also supposedly found some evidence in the soil, like, around where she had been found, that they were reported to have sent, like, to DC to be tested by the FBI, but this was never published, like, what this evidence actually was. So I don't know if that was because it ended up being, like, irrelevant, or if it was, you know, how sometimes they, like, purposely withhold evidence so that, like, if someone comes forward claiming they did it, they can, like, test you to see if you're telling the truth. So I don't know which one of those two it was, but it was never publicized what they found. And again, this is where they never mentioned that sexual assault had been indicated, which maybe that means that it hadn't happened, like, not that it hadn't started to happen, but that, like, whoever did it had tried to assault her and then
not gotten that far.
Like, maybe she retaliated and that's why he killed her. I'm not sure, but they never said anything about that. But then the evidence that would end up being most damning was they found a hair at the crime scene. So this killer was they didn't leave much evidence behind, but they found one hair that they thought to be from the killer. And this hair was flown all the way to California because this was where the only like DNA testing lab was at the time, like the only one in the States. It was in California. And this is actually one of the first times the DNA evidence was like used in court to like prove this.
That's crazy.
And so anyway, they had, prior to finding or testing this hair, they had actually arrested the squirrel hunter that came in the Monday after she was killed.
The one that reported her?
The one that not the one that found the body, but the one that said that he had seen another guy hanging around her. The one who came in and reported that.
Mm-hmm.
He was actually arrested for having killed her because I guess as the investigation was going on, they were interviewing him more since he was the only witness. They talked to him a couple more times, and they started to find inconsistencies for what the report said in his stories. And they didn't specify what these were. They just said that there were some things that didn't add up. And so they actually arrested him in October, only a month after she died, and charged him with first-degree murder and no opportunity for bail. Which to me kind of seems like it came out of just nowhere. I mean, he was the only witness, so I guess maybe they were just desperate.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Again, I don't know what the inconsistencies were that they found either, so I guess we can't really judge how suspicious he actually was.
Although it does sound sketchy, because like,
but
out of all of the squirrel hunters that were there, he's there noticing some guy by some girl.
Exactly. He just happened to be there out of all the people, and conveniently took enough notice of this other guy to like very thoroughly describe him to a sketch artist. So I can see where they were coming from.
Exactly. So he had to be there watching.
Yeah. So clearly,
who knows, maybe there was something he was watching.
Yeah, and looked close enough again to like know what this guy looked like. It wasn't just a passing glance. So anyway, he was arrested, and they found this hair, and they were betting that it would match like his DNA, but it didn't. It came back negative for a match. So they had to let him go. Again, this is like a brand new scientific technique, and it actually acquitted him. It did not match his DNA. So that was their only like lead, their only solid lead other than this sketch that they couldn't find who was of.
How did they know that the hair actually like went to anyone that had anything to do with that? Yeah,
that's what I was thinking too. I guess that they don't, because from what I read, it didn't specify where it was found, like if it was on her body or if it was just like in the dirt or whatever around her. If it was found on her body, I can understand why they would have. I don't know where exactly it was found, but they seem to think that it like definitely belonged to the killer. But I guess also it was the only thing they had to go on, so of course they're gonna
use
it. So anyway, it came back negative. So this guy, who for some reason wasn't named in any of the reports, he's just referred to as the squirrel hunter. I'm not sure why that is, but anyway, he was released in August of 1987, so almost a year after she was killed. And from there, the case just kind of died off. You know, there were no other leads. That was the only suspect that they had like zeroed in on. There were no more reports coming in anymore about like who the guy in the sketch could be. And so it kind of just fell by the wayside. It was put in the cold case file until 2014. So actually pretty recently in the grand scheme of things.
Like what?
Almost 7 years as of this September. And there was actually a unit formed called the cold case unit. And this was the first case that was picked up by that unit. And so there were two specific people assigned to it. Detective Thomas, I'm gonna butcher his name, Orzechowski?
Something wrong.
Detective Thomas O. And Glenn L. Davis, a significantly easier to pronounce name, who actually came out of retirement from law enforcement. He had been a sergeant with the police, and he actually came out of retirement to look over this case again. And they were hoping that DNA testing nowadays, you know, being more sophisticated, would be able to use the old evidence to find something, like some sort of match in the system. And they started recirculating like the sketch of the other hunter that the squirrel guy had supposedly seen, because after he was deemed innocent, obviously his testimony has a little bit more weight now. Maybe he actually saw somebody that matched that description. Maybe he could also just be somebody trying to get, 15 minutes of fame by reporting something.
Never know.
But again, he was found to be not the killer, so I guess that means a little bit more than it did when they thought that he could have
done
done it to throw a suspicion off.
Yeah. See, if I were him and I actually saw something and they had me put in jail as the suspect, I wouldn't do anything. Like,
I'd be really pissed.
I would be pissed and I would not want to help them anymore.
Yeah, like, what the heck? I tried to help and you threw me in jail. And also, you would think that they would have waited to make the formal charge until the DNA evidence came back.
Yeah.
Like, why did they not wait?
Exactly.
Why did they arrest him for? I don't know. And he was held for a full year, like because he was arrested in October and he didn't get out until August.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how long the DNA testing actually took. Like, again, it wasn't this sophisticated back then, so maybe it did take. I can believe that it took longer than it would these days. But I don't know. That just seems like a really long time to me to be held when it had been found that you didn't, that you were.
When there's like no
innocent,
evidence,
and there was like no evidence whatsoever, other than the fact that he came forward and admitted that he'd been there. So I don't know. Also, I don't know if did they check, I wonder, to see if like his weapons that he had matched
the pellet,
like the pellets that were found, because they said that they couldn't source the pellets, but like if they had a suspect, you would think that they would have checked to make sure that I don't know.
Either just a really bad job.
The whole thing with him being arrested just seems like it was kind of rushed to me. But I don't know. That's my personal opinion.
They were just rushed to find someone who did it.
Yeah, they wanted somebody in custody. Yeah. And again, like, I guess we can't make a super accurate judgment since we don't know how inconsistent his stories became.
Yeah.
But anyway. We're just talking here. Her two older brothers, Keith and Greg, have come out, like, in support of the investigation being reopened. They said that it was, painful at first, but that they're hoping,
they can at least get some closure,
that something will come out of it. Yeah, to get some sort of closure. So hopefully we can help by spreading some awareness about this case. And so that's kind of where this ends. Like, I guess we can't really speculate on what happened, considering there's, like, no suspects other than that one testimony, of what that guy supposedly looked like. I would venture, I guess, that it was probably a hunter who, like, was there, and probably, I guess, who would have known that it was obviously hunting season and that it wouldn't be suspicious for a gun to suddenly go off in the middle of the woods. I don't know. It seems more random to me than, like, it doesn't seem like a crime of, like, passion to me or anything like that. I don't think it was somebody who knew her.
Random botanist girl, like.
Yeah, like, why? Exactly. There was no, like, report of any beef that she had with anybody. And I don't know. It just seems more opportunistic to me, unless the only thing I could think is maybe it did say that she had been going into that forest for, like, multiple years, before, while she was doing this whole thesis thing. Yeah. So maybe if somebody who also, like, frequented the forest had been, like, watching her or, like, stalking her and knew that she would be there. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that it was somebody who knew her personally. So I don't know. I guess that's really all that we have to go on. Yeah. But
sad. 35 years.
Really sad. 35 years. She was only 28. Yeah. And she was like she had so much ahead of her. Like, she was about to graduate. She had a thesis. She wanted to be a lawyer. I don't know. It's just really unfortunate that something can happen that suddenly and just completely derail.
Exactly. And there's still no closure for her family.
Still no closure. So if you have any information, if you happen to recognize the guy in the sketch, we'll put it up on screen again for you to see. We'll put the contact info for the detectives or the cold case unit that's handling the case now. We'll put that at the end of the video. And I hope you guys enjoyed, and, well, not enjoyed as much as you can enjoy.
Taking in the information.
And we will see you next time.